What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Boozer here. Thanks for stopping by. Happy Monday, by the way. Let's kick off this week right. We got a CVC happening in 21 hours. If you guys are interested and around on YouTube, make sure you guys drop on by the channel here. We will be streaming a CVC. It's going to be personal rewards. They're always spicy and always fun to have. So make sure you guys drop on by. But it wouldn't be a CVC without some poll event for tomorrow. So we got some info on that from Plarium. So let's jump right into it. All right, guys, here we go. We got 24 hours on each of these events. We got 2 days worth of events here. These are the champions up for grabs for the progressive event for CVC. Keep in mind that this whole Chaos Awakes event will be ending on August 5th. And that's going to be the last time that you guys can pull all the champions for the reward. If you guys don't know what reward I'm talking about, it's this reward. So basically, if you collect Balor, Tholin, Lemonisi, and Gragas, all 4 of them, if you summon them all before August 5th, you will be getting this little bit of extra goodies here. Legendary Relic, Skull of Treason, and a couple of basically chickens, relic chickens, and a couple of gemstones. A nice little sweetener there if you can get all these champions. This is probably the most obtainable one, most accessible one in terms of collecting the bonus goodies, because in the previous campaigns they've always included like a void champion as well. So in this case it's a little bit easier, still very difficult, but a little bit easier. But make sure you guys pull all this stuff by August 5th. Like, for example, I have Gragas here still in the fragment slot, so I have to summon him before August 5th to get all those goodies, and I'll be doing so during a CVC. Anyways, let's quickly look over these progressive event champions. So it looks like Plarium's doing one more event before the end of the Chaos Awakes event, and they're going to juice some of these champions. We got Balor The Lost here, so he's going to be one of the featured champions from Chaos Awakes. Going to be from the Sylvan Watchers here. Let's go here. Spirit Affinity. He brings a lot of stuff for Chimera Trials, and that's probably going to be the best spot for him. He has attack, decent attack for non-mythical champion, 1586. And yeah, you can use him as a damage dealer for Sylvan Watchers, of course. He brings poison sensitivity A1. He's got leech on his A2, as well as a detonator for the poison. And then he brings increased accuracy, decreased resistance, and more poisons on his A3. Again, a very good champion for Chimera Trials, gives you a lot of options, and was just part of a hero's path for basically his guaranteed as a champion. Up next, we do have Razvar from the Skinwalkers here. Very good champion, was a past fusion, has speed in all battles aura, multi-hit A1, turn meter fill, AoE leech with the heal, and then he's got an AoE increased speed, increased accuracy, passive that boosts his speed as well. Very good champion, can be used for Hydra. Fire Knight Hard, for example, can still be used there. He will be up for grabs as well. Also from the Skinwalkers, we have Gwendolyn on day 1 of these progressive events. Very good champion, good for Chimera as well. Has the A1 extension, very good for keeping the debuffs on the boss. Decreased speed, leech, decreased accuracy, all very, very useful against bosses. And then he brings an AoE increased accuracy as well. This passive giving her lots of multi-hits. So her A1 extension, very good, and then basically just more debuffs and more buffs. Very good champion, actually a little bit squishy, of course, but she is a attack based damage dealer. Up next we have Archbishop Pinthroy. Now I recently pulled this champion just on some random event, and yeah, basically the way he works is that he brings the AoE block buffs here from a Spirit Affinity champion. He does bring a little bit of support, increased defense and shields, increased accuracy here, some debuff transfer, but the main thing about him is going to be his AoE block buffs. If you need a Spirit Affinity AoE block buffs, not bad, but Ugo gets the job done basically almost always, but she is Magic Affinity. So it's really up to you how much you want to invest in this champion. He is a legendary champion, and he does require the full books to make everything happen, so he's going to be up for grabs. And lastly, we have from the non-voids, we have Atherion from the High Elves. Very, very good champion. You know, every time I see this guy on people's accounts, this guy's a game changer. If they're not using Atherion, he's very, very good, especially for progression. Best set for him, probably Slayer set. Best spot for him, probably farming Spider. He still can pitch in quite a bit of damage against Hydra. He has AoE block buffs here, AoE decreased attack, self buffs himself. Can get a lot of turn meter stuff from having Slayer set on, lots of AoEs. He does have the max HP hit, but the multipliers on this are a little bit on the low side, so you need really, really good gear for him to hit really, really hard. which is a little bit of a drawback. But yeah, this guy brings a lot to the table. Really good against Hydra, like I said, but I think his main spot's going to be just solo farming hard spider. Now, for the Void champions here, Calco the Blind. Calco the Blind from Demon Spawn. I love this champion. I did a showcase on this champion, and he hits super, super well against Hydra, for example. He does require a little bit of accuracy. He brings block passives and a debuff spread. Very, very cool. Obviously, any kind of sheep shenanigans on him in arena, it's gonna, shut him down. But if you can land this block passive, really, really strong. It brings a decreased defense as well. Increased accuracy, decreased speed. Very good against, like I said, Hydra. And then his passive here just pumps his damage like crazy. So whenever any kind of hard CC happens to him, he uses his A2. So yeah, he's just constantly hitting. He does a ton of damage. Ignore defense on his A1 here. Great champion. He looks kind of meh, I guess. He looks cool in my opinion, but I've heard some people say they don't like the way he looks. But personally, I think he looks really, really cool. He would be a fun champion to play around with. And if you got him, congratulations. So he will be up for grabs. Up next for the Void champions on day one, we got Supreme Kale. Supreme Kale here. Got an AoE weaken. He's got an AoE poison. Also increases the duration of all enemy debuffs by 1 turn. And then he has an AoE increased accuracy on all allies before attacking. Places decreased resistance. This debuff cannot be resisted. I believe you don't need resistance on him. Yep. So these debuffs cannot be resisted. So all 3 of his abilities don't require accuracy. So yeah, pretty good. I mean, he brings poisons, brings some attacks, some buffs, decreased resistance. He's an attack-based damage dealer, a little bit squishy. Pretty fast one, 110. And can kind of soften up the boss a little bit with the decreased accuracy, crit rate, crit damage. But I haven't really found a awesome spot for this guy yet. He's a good champion. He's probably one of the best for the Supreme starters. But yeah, I haven't really found a spot for him. And then lastly, we have Arthia Corpseflower here. Arthia Corpseflower. I did do a showcase on her. She's from the Sylvan Watchers. Honestly, her kit hits good. But it requires a bit of setup, which didn't work very well for me in the showcase. So her A2 here is a double hit. Damage increases if they're under Hex. Will ignore shield, strengthen, ignore block damage if they're under Hex. And then she has a really big turn meter fill here, especially if she kills somebody as well. Not quite extra turn levels. Like you might as well just give her like extra turn if she kills somebody, but instead they give her like turn meter as a guarantee, and then they give her additional turn meter for killing 1 enemy. Of course, she can kill more than 1 enemy. Her A3 here is a kind of a setup ability. So she places increased accuracy. Then she goes Death Brand, Hex on everybody. Then she gets the turn meter fill, and then she has the block damage. So she kind of does all this setup, and then she has block damage. And then you go into this A2, and she hits. She hits good, like good damage. But you gotta spend 2 turns, right? Unless you have a setup otherwise. So you need somebody else to land Hex for her, which is a little bit annoying. She doesn't have ignore defense, for example, in her A2, but her passive here does give her ignore defense, does give her a little bit of a boost. If this champion kills 1 or more enemies in battle, will ignore 10% of any target's defense. So you have to kill somebody first before you get the damage boost here from the ignore defense. If he kills 2 enemies in battle, this champion will receive a shield, 40% of their max HP. Now her max HP is not going to be the highest, so a 40% shield is not a ginormous deal. If the champion kills 3 or more enemies in battle, each attack will decrease the target's turn meter by 10%. Cannot be resisted. Now, you don't really need accuracy on her for this. You're not going to be building her with accuracy to get this. You're going to be building her with accuracy to get this, the Death Brand and the Hex, which are great debuffs. But you don't really need that much accuracy, right? Because she brings increased accuracy herself. Anyways, she can hit. She can be a pretty cool champion to play with, but in terms of practicality, I think having a 2-turn setup champion is just not going to fly nowadays. She also doesn't bring increased attack for herself, so you're going to need that as well. I just think she just needs too much to be good nowadays. That's not going to fly. So that's going to be on day 1. Honestly, a little bit of a weak progressive event, so you guys don't need to be too FOMO'd about this, especially if you have Balor already. Let's talk about day 2 here real quick. We got Gragas Drake for day 2, so that's obviously going to be the one that Plarium is highlighting a bit. Gragas here, I think it's a good champion. Was part of a guaranteed deck of fate. I still think he's a Lizardman, but he's actually like Demon Spawn. Yeah, where's Great Coast here? Great Coast, there he is. Good champion. Brings the AoE decreased defense here with an AoE block buffs. A little bit of damage, a little bit of healing on the A1, and then he brings a three turn cooldown block damage increased defense here. Team wide buff on the passive. Good base stats overall. Yeah, solid champion. So if you got him, congratulations. He's a good champion. He's gonna be available on day 2. Up next, we have for the non-voids, Yuzel of Jade. Yuzel the Jade from the Dwarf faction. He brings, what does he bring? He brings damage. He brings damage, and his kind of thing is extra turns. So his A1 here grants an extra turn, 20% chance. If this kills an enemy, grants an extra turn. His A2 here, AoE, basically goes through shields by 100%, places decreased defense. Cannot be resisted if you're using an extra turn. Has a 20% chance of getting extra turn. This chance increases for each crit hit. So potentially a very high chance to get extra turn on the A2. And the A3 here smacks like crazy. Single target hit, ignores shield, block damage, unkillable, and ignores a stone skin and 100% of the target's defense if this skill was used on an extra turn or an instant turn. Instant turn, basically text there just for like Suzanne shenanigans and stuff like that. Very powerful ability, but obviously you have to factor in the extra turn, instant turn condition. And then the passive here, if an ally has a chance to gain extra turn, increase that chance by additional 5%. Now, if they have 0%, if they have no extra turn mechanic in their kit, they're not going to gain anything from this. But if they have anything that gives them an extra turn condition, then they're going to get an extra 5%. It's actually kind of low value here. The big thing for this passive is that this champion deals 25% more damage on extra turns, which is pretty crazy. His base attack's not the craziest, but probably just to temper some of the craziness down a little bit in his overall kit. Cool champion, but yeah, no built-in survivability, so it's going to be tough to like use him in the live arena and stuff like that, but he definitely cranks if you have a good team with him. After that, we have Modo of the Pearl. So Modo of the Pearl here from the Ogryn tribes. He's a damage dealer. He can actually do okay damage, brings an AoE stun here. And then if you have Esme on the team, he's going to ignore some defense, which is pretty strong. A3 here, another AoE, ignores shields, go through Stone Skin here, and then has an A1 decreased defense as well. His passive, whenever this champion kills an enemy, places a stun debuff on the enemy with the highest turn meter for 2 turns. So he's bringing some stuns, he's bringing some damage, some Stone Skin destroying mechanics here. Now he's not going to be doing crazy damage against Stone Skin or anything like that, but he can kill, nukers probably through Stone Skin reliably, I would say. He's also, force affinity, so there's going to be affinity issues sometimes. But I would say for Ogryn tribes, he's probably okay as a damage dealer, but nothing too crazy like that. And he will be available on day 2 if you want him. Afterwards, we have Bells the Reckoner. Bells the Reckoner here from the Orcs faction. He was I believe, a guaranteed champion as well from Deck of Fate. There he is. Yeah, he's an okay champion. He's cool. I have him myself. He brings in decreased defense A1. Got a single target steal, and then he has an AoE condition here if they're all under leech. 3-turn cooldown, and then his big thing about him is that his A3 is an AoE attack with a block buff and leech, and then it's a turn meter fill. It's pretty easy to get some quite a high turn meter here from placing all these debuffs, and his passive is a damage boosting passive, but he doesn't hit super hard, so you're basically just using him for debuffs here. So AoE block buff, AoE leech with turn meter and stuff, and then he brings the backup decreased defense if you need him. Not too bad. I mean, he's a slight upgrade over somebody like maybe Ugo, but he is a legendary champion. He doesn't bring the AoE decreased defense as well. And the steal here, conditionally good, right? So if you don't land the block buffs, then he can steal the buffs back, for example. So he got you covered there, but he doesn't bring enough. I don't think he brings enough. His damage here is not significant, in my opinion. But an okay champion if you need the AoE block buffs. And he'll be available on day 2. And then lastly, on day 2, we have Rotos The Lost Groom here. Super 6 champion. I have him +1 on my account. My best damage dealer, or one of my best damage dealers. Very good for live arena, for example. Good in lots of areas. He brings inevitability. Basically, if you steal enough HP from enemies with this A2 attack, eventually the A3 will just block revive everybody. So he brings inevitability. He gets a lot of damage from books. So you see here 30% damage from books, 40% damage here from books. So he needs to be booked up. And his passive, obviously one of the best things about him is that will decrease damage from enemy hits, so that incoming damage from a single hit will not exceed 50% of this champion's HP. Grants an extra turn as this damage reduction happens. So he requires multi-hits to kill him right away. And if you don't, he's going to get the extra turn, and then he's just going to absolutely wreak havoc on you. But yeah, super cool champion. He gets countered pretty hard in a lot of spots, obviously by Ultimate Death Knight, by Harima. Harima really counters him quite a bit, being, bad affinity and then countering this 60% ignore defense quite a bit. Super slow base speed, but with his passive giving him an extra turn, very, very strong. Doesn't necessarily need to be super fast. So he will be up for grabs on day 2, and that's going to be it for the non-voids. For the void champions, this one's a little bit more interesting. Starting off here for the barbarian faction, we have Odin. Odin is one of my most wanted void champions, mainly because I have a 5-star soul for him. So if I ever pulled this guy, he would instantly be usable at a high level for my live arena teams. But yeah, really good champion, total package champion here. Big aura for void champions in arena. Got an A1 berserk debuff, so this debuff basically means that the champion with the debuff deals more damage but also receives more damage. Really good against a support champion. So for example, if you land this against Duchess, Duchess's A1 is not going to do a lot of damage, but they're going to be receiving more damage. That's really good. The A2 here, obviously one of the best things about Odin. Got a 3-turn strip with the decreased defense and the AoE stun. Very, very powerful. Of course, landing, getting sheeped is very bad. So putting a pinpoint set on Odin makes a lot of sense. He's landing a lot of debuffs. His A3 here can absolutely smack. This is a game-changing A3. It can hit really hard, and it can revive a champion if you kill somebody. But this means that Odin needs tons of stats. He needs crit rate, crit damage, lots of accuracy, needs to be super fast. And probably the most annoying / best thing about Odin is his passive. Every 9 turns block damage on this champion for 1 turn, then applies buff spread. 9 turns is all turns in the game. Total turns, your turns, opponent's turns. This happens quite a bit, and this is absolutely game changing. If you're not ready for this, if you didn't draft properly to deal against this, this just wrecks you. And the fact that he can recover his whole team with his A3, very, very tough champion to deal with. As for Void Champions, he's one of my most wanted Void Champions, going to be available on day 2. After that, we have Gurgo the Ogre. I have this champion. I think he's really good. I'm going to look into building this guy out. Like, he's kind of like, he kind of does the similar thing as Odin. He has the, where is it? AoE strip. He has an AoE strip here and a chance to basically CC the enemy with a freeze. Not as good as stun. Not as good as Odin, obviously. And this is on a 4-turn cooldown. It does grant an extra turn, so basically a 3-turn cooldown. Keep in mind that Odin is a decreased defense and a stun and a strip. So, this ability is just basically missing a decreased defense. Which he will apply on the second ability here. So he gets the extra turn, and then you go into this ability, which is an AoE decreased defense, and it's going to be a pretty big hit. Odin doesn't hit so on this ability. So Gurgo can strip you, freeze you, and then hit you hard. But again, similar to Odin, he does require tons of stats and probably a pinpoint set so he doesn't sheep himself by landing the freeze debuff. His A1 extra hit if they're frozen. Passive's kind of interesting. If he gets hit, there's a chance to freeze the enemy, which can be cool. Could be game changing. And then he brings big speed in arena battles here. I mean, he's kind of like, he's kind of like Odin light, but I would say not as good, not as threatening. But a great champion to have if you need another speed lead, if you need another stone skin strip, for example. But yeah, lots, very, very high gear requirement for this guy. And then lastly, we have Leorius the Proud from the Skinwalkers. The kitty cat. Now this guy, I mean, on surface, he looks very good, but the base attack really lets him down here. 1400 base attack, very, very low. But it's basically to temper this, right? His passive effect, damage increase as the champion's decrease. So he hits the hardest at 1 HP. And his kit allows him to go down to 1 HP because it instantly places unkillable on this champion for 1 turn when he receives a fatal hit. So you have to be kind of careful around Leorius. Don't want to bring down his HP too low because his damage is going to go up. And the way his kit works, he's basically immune to all sorts of hard CC if this skill is not on cooldown. So he's basically uncontrollable if you have no way to lock out this ability, or if he hasn't taken a turn yet, for example, and his damage goes up and he's unkillable. So there's a lot of things that, work in his favor. And he can hit super, super hard. But in today's, arena meta and stuff like that, he's not going to be used in super, super high settings because, he doesn't have ignore defense. He has low base attack scaling. And there's so many champions that do like strips nowadays. It's just not going to work. Lockouts are also very, very common as well. So he's not going to be fully immune to the CC stuff. But overall, he can still be very, very helpful depending where you are in the game. Great champion for hard faction wars, for example. And yeah, the line's going to be available on day 2. All right, guys, so that's going to be it for the 2-day progressive event, 24 hours for each set of champions. Now, like I said, nothing here really, really stands out. Odin would be my number 1 in terms of what I would be looking for myself. I mean, Chelko here, again, for the Void champions. But keep in mind, this is for, CVC. It's not for the Fusion or anything like that. So this can be totally a skip. Anywho, that's going to be it for the video. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you guys are planning to do for personal reward CVC. If you guys are interested in these events at all. Once again, thank you guys for watching. Appreciate your time. And I'll see you guys in the next video.